Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, is the first film adaptation of the book series of the same name. It is directed by David Soren and stars Kevin Hart, Thomas Middleditch, Ed Helms, as well as Jordan Peele and the likes of Nick Kroll. So, before I really get into this movie, I want to talk about how I actually first saw this movie. It was a joke at first for me. I thought this movie looked like shit, but I used to love the books as a kid. And so I was at a party, and I said, hey guys, let's all go see Captain Underpants at 10:45 at night. And before I knew it, my friends were going around telling other people, hey, we're going to go see Captain Underpants tonight at 10:45 p.m. And sure enough, 2 hours later, we were sitting in the movie theater at 10:30. So, I originally didn't intend for this to actually happen, but boy did I love this movie. I was so pleasantly surprised with how this movie turned out. Shit, I never thought the day would come where I would say I enjoyed a Captain Underpants movie in the same week more than I enjoyed a Wonder Woman movie. Is this movie perfect? Fuck no, it's not. There are a lot of minor flaws that pop up all across this movie, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. Just know that I am aware that they're there. But the thing is about movies as just a whole, when you are thoroughly enjoying a movie the entire way through, you don't notice as many flaws as you do if you dislike the movie. Because if you're not into the movie, and you're just sitting there and you're upset and you're disappointed and you're not liking what you're watching, you're noticing way more like little gripes than you would if you're watching a movie that you're totally invested in. I was very invested in this movie, because at the end of the day it's a comedy, and it made me laugh the entire time. Sure, there are a couple of jokes here and there that don't land, but as a whole, this movie made me laugh for an hour and 30 minutes, and that's what the movie had to do. So let me get into more of what I liked about this movie. Other than I'll start with the comedy. This is a very satirical movie in a way. It's making fun of itself and movies of this genre, kind of, and that makes it all the more funny because, in a way, it's an intelligently written animated film, which is kind of rare nowadays from DreamWorks. You don't see them doing all that much, and especially all that much that's a great work of film. So, seeing them do like an intelligently written satirical comedy movie is kind of cool, and it works. It's funny the whole way through. I was laughing the entire time. And it's awesome because when you have a movie like that, you can take anyone in your family to go see it. I plan on seeing this movie a second time with my grandfather, my uncle, and my little cousin. And I think all of them are going to love it because there's humor in here that matches everyone. Kids can love this movie, teens can love this movie, adults can love this movie, and older adults can love this movie. And I think that's very important when you're making an animated movie. That's sort of the expectation now with studios like Pixar and Studio Ghibli making animated movies that everyone can enjoy. So that's why the excuse it's a kids movie is sort of a dead excuse now, because we've reached a point in filmmaking where there's a very high bar for animated filmmaking to the point where you actually have to surpass it. I think that this movie sort of does that because it works for everybody. They have a very interesting and consistent style. Throughout this entire movie, they use the animation to their advantage. At first, when the movie first started, the animation almost looked like a little too much for me. Like, it looked too, I don't know how to put this, it looked too 3D to the point where it looked too fake. Like, WALL-E looks like a real movie. Like, until they get the animated people, it almost looks like they actually shot that movie. But you start to realize that it's all part of this style that the movie's setting up, and they use the animation specifically for that. Like, when someone is laughing hysterically, like they have little water droplets shooting out of their eyes, and little things like that can honestly shape a movie, especially a movie like this, that has to kind of be like this, because it's just the movie that it is, and they use the animation the entire time to their advantage to set this kind of style. I will say it disappears a little bit in the middle of the movie and then reappears towards the ending, and it's very prevalent in the beginning, so like it was a little weird in that shift, but overall they have this very consistent style that kind of just makes you smile and like brings you more into the movie because it makes it more of a standalone. It doesn't feel that much like a book adaptation or like a sequel to something. It feels like its own movie, which is really cool. I used to really enjoy the books when I was a kid. I haven't read them in a long time, but one of the people I saw the movie with had also read the books a long time ago, and I think he was the only other person I saw the movie with that had read the books. And as the movie continued, we were both kind of like, oh shit, I remember that from the book. And it was kind of cool. Like, it was like a nice little trip down nostalgia lane, because I loved these books when I was a little kid. Because, like, what little kid didn't? They were potty humor, they were drawn interestingly, they were spelled incorrectly on purpose. Like, it was always kind of cool to watch, or to read. So, I don't know, it was a nice little trip down nostalgia lane for me. And the other thing that's very important about this movie, that I think really actually puts it above more than anything else, it's self-aware. It knows that this is a stupid premise, with a stupid plot, with stupid characters. It knows that. And a movie like this has to know that. A movie like this can't sit down and go, okay, we are going to make a movie about this principal that turns into Captain Underpants. We're going to make it a piece of filmmaking art. No! The executives have to sit down and go, look, this is stupid, so let's own it. Let's do even more with it. And I think there are a lot of movies out there that fail at that, but a lot of movies that succeed at that. One movie I really like to point to that succeeds is Kingsman. Kingsman knows how ridiculous it is and plays off of it. It is this crazy, unbelievable action comedy movie that just had never been made before, and Matthew Vaughn was like, yeah, this is insanity, so I'm gonna go crazy making this movie. It was the same thing, I think, with Guardians, the first one. While I don't love that movie, it's self-aware. So I think that this movie being self-aware and knowing that it's so stupid and ridiculous and playing the comedy off of that is very important. And I think they did a very good job with that aspect of the movie, because it was the first thing that I came out of this movie thinking. Like, good for you guys. You knew exactly what you were making. The last thing I'll talk about is the voice cast. I enjoyed the voice cast, actually. When I looked at this movie up, I was shocked to discover who played who. I knew the main three. I knew Kevin Hart, Thomas Middleditch, and Ed Helms. And kudos to Ed Helms. I'm not a big Ed Helms fan, but, like, I couldn't tell it was him the entire time. He actually, like, did something with his voice that made him almost play a character. Kevin Hart, like, sort of plays Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, I'm going to touch on him really quick. He's a funny guy. He's a very funny guy. I watch him in interviews, and I've seen a couple of his stand-up things, and he's fucking hilarious. I think a lot of the things he does are really, really funny, but he's playing the same goddamn part in every movie he's doing, and that's sort of, for me, a fact. I have yet to see him play a character in a movie. I've been watching him play Kevin Hart, and unfortunately, when you try and take Kevin Hart and write him, it's not the same thing. They're two different things, so it doesn't work. He's fine in this movie, I guess. I don't know. It's like he didn't have much to do. He just kind of read his lines. Thomas Middleditch was very funny. But I was shocked to find out that Nick Kroll was Professor Poopy Pants and that Jordan Peele was Melvin. They did an excellent job as voice cast members, just melding into their characters completely, because the only character in which I heard a voice cast actor was Kevin Hart, and I think that's just the distinctness of his voice. So major props to the rest of the voice cast for actually melding into these characters to the point where I was watching a character, I wasn't listening to an actor's voice. I will talk about one gripe I have with this movie, because I've already touched on the fact that there are huge minor plot problems, and huge minor plot problems, tons of minor plot problems, and just overall a lot of little things that are wrong with this movie. The only big thing I noticed about this movie, it refuses to fucking end. There is like an ending battle sequence that is like 30 minutes long, and there are at least 3 times where I thought, okay, this is it. It's gonna end. It was like Lord of the Rings, and then it didn't, and it kept fucking going. It was weird for an hour and 30-minute movie that it started to drag, but it was still funny. But I was like, okay, let's wrap it up. It felt like the ending of Finding Dory, where they kept just finding ways for things to go wrong so they could get it to be an hour and 30 minutes. It sort of felt like they were doing that by the end of this movie, because, like, at the end of the day, it's a movie called Captain Underpants, and I don't know how much material you're going to have to work with, so I guess they kind of had to do that, but I started to feel it towards the end of the movie. So, overall, I recommend this movie. I say go out and check it out. It is worth the watch. It is funny, it's interesting, and it is consistent the whole way through. Take your family, take your kids, take your parents, take your grandparents, take your dog, take your cat, take your fish. Go ahead and see this movie. It is awesome. It is just entertaining the whole way through. So, what did you guys think? Did you see Captain Underpants? Did you not see Captain Underpants? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.